Welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read Parshas Nitzavim. And this parsha, like many of the other parshios in Chumash Devarim, contain the stream of consciousness of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe, the beloved shepherd, speaking to his prized flock, Klal Yisrael, recognizing that he will be unable to accompany them into the promised land, but yet feeling the urgency to convey and to impart upon them as much vital information as he can, in order that his beloved people could be successful in the future. So in the beginning of the episode, towards actually the end of the parasha, Perek Lamed Pasuk Tes Vav, chapter 30, verse 15, the Torah says as follows: Re'ei nasati lefanecha hayom es ha'chaim ve'es ha'tov ve'es ha'mabes ve'es ha'ra. Moshe Rabbeinu says, kind of speaking on behalf of the Ribbon Shalom, see, I have placed before you today es ha'chaim ve'es ha'tov, life and good, ve'es ha'mabes ve'es ha'ra, and death and bad or evil. Now the truth is, a pasuk like this is actually, we find this type of theme very often throughout the Chumash. We've seen this before. This idea in the beginning of Parshas Re'eh, right? Re'eh anochi nosin lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. And on the most basic way to understand a pasuk like this is that Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us life is filled with choices. Every single day we have to make choices. The truth is, every single moment we have to make choices. There are dramatic choices. Should I take this job? Should I take that job? Should I send my children to this school, to that school? Should I go down this road, not go down this road? There are major decisions we make in life. And then there are smaller everyday decisions. How should I spend my time? Should I engage in this project or that project? Is this kedai to put my kolchos over here or over here? Re'eh nasati lefanach hayom. Moshe says there are choices. And some of those choices are dramatic because some of those choices are the difference between life and death. Now, maybe not in the physical, biological sense, but certainly in the spiritual sense. Sometimes the decisions we make in life really determine, am I going to have spiritual life or chas v'shalom, spiritual decay? Are my decisions going to propel me towards a life of holiness, towards a life of kedusha, or chas v'shalom, will my life decisions propel me in the opposite direction, to a life and to a lifestyle that is void of holiness, of relationship with God, of meaning, of purpose? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, Re'ei nasati lefanech hayom. Those are the decisions you have to make every day. Sometimes we like to say, the famous adage, I want to have my cake and eat it too. The truth is, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Or I should say, you could have your cake, you could eat it too, but at the end of the day, there are repercussions. So if you choose to eat the cake, this is going to happen. If you don't choose to eat the cake, that's going to happen. That kind of mindset that I want to make a decision, but I want to have the best of all the possible alternatives, doesn't actually happen in this world. If you make a decision, you choose A, you give up B. You choose B, you give up A. So make sure, Moshe Rabbeinu says, that you're making the right decision. Often at that crossroads, the choice is between Chaim and Tov, good in life, and on the other hand, Maves and Ra, death and evil. A dramatic decision, but decisions nevertheless that each of us must make in everyday life. But the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says something truly beautiful. And the Rebbe says that Moshe Rabbeinu was alluding to something else as well. See, we often look at this pasuk and the two paths that Moshe Rabbeinu outlines as being a choice between good and bad, right? There's life in good, there's Maves and Ra. And the Baal Shem Tov says something so beautiful, that in fact Moshe Rabbeinu was outlining for Klal Yisrael that there are two ways in which a person can cultivate a relationship with Hashem. There is the path of what he calls Chayim and Tov. Well, let's actually work the opposite way. There's the path of Maves and Ra. What is Maves and Ra? Sometimes we create a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu for one simple reason. I have to serve God because He has the power of life and death. I have to serve God because He has the power to punish. I don't want to die. I don't want to get punished. I don't want to suffer adversity. And therefore, I'm going to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do. It's a service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is motivated from a sense of yira, of fear. Fear of repercussion, fear of punishment, fear of Gehenna, fear of a lack of olam haba, whatever drives your fear. That's the Maves and Ra. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, there's another path. That's the path of Chaim and Tov. That's the path of Avodas Hashem, of what the Rebbe calls Mitoch Ava B'Simcha. Why do I worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why do I serve my God? Why do I learn Torah? Why do I do Chesed? Why do I perform mitzvos? Because I love the Ribbon Shalom. Because I love Him. I know He loves me. And I know He gives me so much. And He asks, really, if you think about it, for so little in return compared to what He's giving me. And I feel honored to serve. I feel honored to be a son, to be a daughter of the king. I feel honored to have this relationship. I feel privileged, and it's exciting. I feel the love of my Creator, and I want to enter into that relationship. There's a joy because I recognize that Torah and mitzvos allow me to self-actualize, allow me to become the best version of myself. And as such says the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh amazingly, Moshe Rabbeinu is not telling us you have a choice between doing good and doing bad. We all know that. He's not telling us that I have a choice between mitzvos and averos. That's obvious. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us that in the creation and the cultivation of a relationship with Hashem, there are two paths that we can choose, and they're both good, and they're both legitimate, and they're both proper, and they both can lead to a relationship with Hashem. There is the path of Chaim Tov, there's the path of Simcha, joy, excitement, feeling of privilege, opportunity, realizing that what I give to Hashem, I get back tenfold. And when I serve Him, I become the best version of myself. And then there's Maves and Ra. I serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He holds the power of life and death. Because He holds the ultimate power over me, and if I step out of line, He has the ability to punish. Then there are repercussions for doing the wrong thing, and there are repercussions for failing to do the right thing, and I don't want to suffer those repercussions. Moshe Rabbeinu says they're both correct paths. It's the path of Ava and Simcha, of love and joy, and the path of Yira and Pachad, fear and trepidation. They can both get you to the same place, which is a relationship with Hashem. They're both legitimate, they're both valid. Moshe Rabbeinu says, choose a path. Choose a path. Beautiful, incredible insight. But of course, the follow-up question is, what do you think, which path does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want me to choose? Okay, I got it. They're both legitimate. It's kind of like any parent runs into these situations with their children. Your child's making a decision. And sometimes, Baruch Hashem, it's one of those situations where both decisions are good. There's no bad decision. Baruch Hashem, no bad decision. But yeah, I kind of sometimes want to know from my parents, but which one do you think? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I got it. There's two proper paths. There's the path of Chaim Tov, and there's the path of Maves Ra, and they're both legitimate. Which one do you think, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So says the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, that's just a couple of psukim later. So in Perek Tesuvav Pasuk Yotes, chapter 30, verse 19, just a few verses later, the Torah says as follows: Ubacharta b'chaim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, choose life, leman tichya ata v'zaracha, in order that you and your offspring could live. And says the Baal Shem Tov, here HaKadosh Baruch Hu kiviyachol shows His hand, and Hashem says to us, what do I want you to choose? Ubacharta b'chaim. I would rather have a relationship with you that is steeped in simcha, that is steeped in joy, in happiness, in love, in commitment, in a desire to serve, than have a relationship that is steeped in fear. They're both legitimate. They're both okay. They're both fine. They'll both get you potentially to the finish line, a meaningful and deep relationship with Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if you ask me what I want, what kind of relationship do I want with you? Ubacharta b'chaim. I would rather you create a Chaim Tov relationship, a relationship steeped in love, excitement, and just joy, privilege to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then the Ribbon Shalom says, I want to tell you something. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, it's better for you. And number two, it's better for your kids. Because if your children see you worshiping me from simcha, from joy, from ava, from love, then potentially they'll learn to do the same. If they see you worshiping me out of yira, out of pachad, chances are your kids really aren't going to necessarily want that for themselves. If it's out of love, then they'll want it. But if it's out of fear, they may want it, but they may also reject it. So here the Rebbe Moshe Rabbeinu tells us both paths are valid, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, let me tell you the one that I want, the one that I desire. Ubacharta b'chaim. See, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to have a relationship with Him that is steeped in simcha, in joy, and that is steeped in ava and love. He doesn't want us to have a relationship because we're cowering in the corner from fear of retribution or punishment. He doesn't want us to go ahead and have a relationship simply because I don't want to go to Gehenna. I don't want to go to Gehenna. But if that's the motivation for the relationship with Baruch, who says that there's something missing, I want love, I want commitment, I want passion, I want excitement. Ubacharta b'chayim, re'ei nasati lefanecha hayom es hachayim ve'es hatov. That's what I want from you. And what an incredibly profound idea. Do you have to fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Of course. Fear is a necessary part of our relationship with Hashem. But it's not a fear of being stricken. It's not a fear of being punished. That's part of it. But it's a fear that really translates into an awe, into a reverence. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants a relationship steeped in love. And this is so incredibly important as we enter into the Yamim Noraim. Because a lot of times, whether you recognize it or not, many of us walk around with baggage. Yamim Noraim, high holiday baggage. What's high holiday baggage? People don't look forward to Yamim Noraim. And it's understandable, because if your Yamim Noraim experience is framed as God is deciding who's going to live and who's going to die, and so you better get it together, because you don't want to be inscribed in the book of death. I don't know any normal person who would actually look forward to an experience like that. I don't want to be inscribed in the book of death, but tell me that I'm going to look forward. I can't wait for these next 10 days, because hopefully I'm not going to die. Hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to put me in the right book. It's hard to kind of get excited about days like that. But if I recognize that, yes, is there judgment? Absolutely. Is there a Sefer Chaim and Sefer Meis? Absolutely. Does HaKadosh Baruch Hu decide who's going to prosper and who's going to wither? Absolutely. But you know what the ikr of these days are? The primary aspect of the Yom Noraim is an opportunity to connect with my Father. An opportunity to go ahead and become one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because throughout the year I get busy and distracted with so many things, and often I neglect and I forget my most important life relationship. And my most important life relationship, the most important, is my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that is the relationship that drives every single other relationship. And if that relationship is deficient, then every other relationship in my life is deficient as well. And so for 10 days, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm here. I love you. I care about you. I want you to be more successful than you want your own success. I look down upon you. I shep nachas from you. Am I disappointed when you make mistakes? Yeah, I am, because I love you and I believe in you. Am I disappointed when you make bad decisions? Absolutely, because I know you're capable of more. But that disappointment doesn't have to translate into divine wrath, and that disappointment is not eternal. I'm here to help you become a better you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. I'm here to help you become the best version of yourself. I'm here because I love you. And all I want, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, is for you to love me back. Don't create a relationship where you're just cowering in the corner and forge a connection because you're afraid of what happens if you don't have that connection. But create a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He loves you and we love Him because of everything He does for us. Because if I have that relationship, that is the only way I transcend my finitude in order to become something infinite, in order to become something dramatically amazing, in order to become the best version of myself. That's Yamim Noraim. That's Rosh Hashanah. And that's the simcha of these days. The simcha of the Yamim Noraim is Re'ei nasati lefanecha hayom es hachayim ve'es hatov ubacharta b'chayim. Both paths are legitimate, but at the end of the day, the path of Chaim, the path of Simcha, the path of Ava, the path of joy, the path of love, the path of excitement, the path of optimism, the path that says, I want this relationship because I need it, not to avoid punishment, but I needed to become the best version of me. I needed to become the best father. I needed to become the best husband. I needed to become the best Jew. I needed to become the best human being. I need this relationship because it'll help me unlock the greatness inside of me. Because when I could connect with the King, I could absorb some of those monarchical identity pieces as well. I want the relationship because it's wonderful and because there's nothing better. May we be Zochem Yirtz Hashem to choose the right derech. Ubacharta b'chayim, to choose the path of Chaim and Tov. May we Zochem Yirtz Hashem to carry this into our Rosh Hashanah and allow our Rosh Hashanah, our Aseret Mitzvah, our Yom Kippur to be days of incredible joy, and the greatest joy of all, the joy of closeness to the Melech Malchei Amlachim, to the King of Kings. Wishing everyone a good Shabbos and a Ksiva v'Chasima Tova.